Well, we can now join our correspondent in Jerusalem, Noga Tarnopolsky, for more on this. Hi, Noga. Maybe we can start. Can you give us, some reaction in Israel to this vow from the president, the interim president of Syria, that he's going to prioritize the protection of the Druze community there?
Hi, good to see you. Yes, I can first start with the Druze leadership in Israel, by which I mean an amorphous group of just very prominent Druze citizens of Israel. This includes some members of the Israeli parliament, some former members, some ex-generals in the Israeli army, who across the board are not willing to accept this statement by the interim president of Syria, the current president of Syria, Al-Sharaa. I even heard statements today to the effect that, once an Islamist terrorist, always an Islamist terrorist. And there are also quite a few comments today from, again, this prominent Druze citizens of Israel, I'd say, who are very influential, saying that what they saw in the area of Sweida, in the Druze strongholds of southwest Syria in the last 4 days, reminded them of October 7th. That's the kind of statement that has a huge impact in Israel. We're seeing the Israeli government, on the other hand, basically not making any statements. My understanding is that the Israeli government does not want to irritate the Trump administration right now. The Americans are trying very, very hard to come to a firm ceasefire. The Syrian government did begin to withdraw its troops from this region in the middle of the night, last night. So the Israeli government is actually basically keeping mum, and I think in a wait-and-see posture, as is the army. Meanwhile, the Israeli police and Israeli army are still combing through a large swath of Syria, looking for several hundred remaining Israeli citizens, probably all of them Druze citizens of Israel, who crept into Syria either to meet long-lost relatives or to help save their brethren who they felt were being massacred, as we saw in videos. And are still in Syria. Some Israelis have been arrested in Syria. I've been trying to get information about how many or what their condition is, and I'm still waiting to get any information about that.
That looks then like still quite a complicated situation in the area. Do people in Israel think that this ceasefire is going to last?
You're right. It's an extremely complicated and I would say febrile situation. It could still go in any direction. One of the things that I think, saw for sure in recent days is how fragile the fabric of Syrian society still is, 7 months following the fall of Bashar Assad. Israelis are very wary, I'd say, about this ceasefire. Again, Israeli population as a whole is very influenced by what the Druze leadership in the country is saying. All of the people who've been speaking out, in the absence of a government line, are influential, important people, impactful. So the Israelis, I think, are skeptical and worried about what is going on there. But at the same time, the number one concern for Israelis remains the ongoing war in Gaza. 650 days of war, more and more reports about the horrors taking place in Gaza are finally getting through to the Israeli people. And this is kind of flowing together with the fears that Israelis have about the fate of their hostages. 50 hostages still being held by Hamas in Gaza, and the feeling that there is a stalemate when it comes to negotiations for their release, negotiations for a ceasefire that could also help save the lives of Israeli soldiers.
OK, well, we'll leave it there. Noga Tarnopolsky, our correspondent there in Jerusalem, talking to us. And to talk a little more about events in Syria following that Prime Minister's vow to protect the Druze minority in Syria and that ceasefire deal that Noga were just talking about.